Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tweak.Test.Repeat. I'm Mr. Umer, and it's tax season. Now, this episode is going to be on not so much the details of what my tax return looks like or what your tax return looks like, but it's basically to highlight one of the options, and that's doing your own taxes by yourself using tax preparation software. Obviously, you can go ahead and get a tax professional. You can hire them and they can do your taxes. They might be able to maximize and get you more return on your taxes. You can go through the typical vendors. They can also do that. You can do some of the free ones online, or you can use what I use. I use a software from Intuit. It's called Turbo Tax. Now this is a paid edition, so I found this on Amazon. I believe it was around $39 after some discounts there. So you can obviously buy this from Best Buy, Target, Walmart. It's going to be Fry's. There'll be different places where you can buy it with various discounts. But I found the best deal on Amazon. Now, when you launch or you first launch this program, the TurboTax is going to install, obviously, right? And I got the digital edition, which you download every tax year. Now you may think to yourself, well, that's an added cost, right? I'd rather just pay someone or a business to do it for me and not have to pay for the download, right? Well, there's many ways to do things. And this one here, I'll be up front. You'll have to pay for the software, which is 39, and you can still do what's called an electronic e-file. But if you want to do state, that's usually another $20 if you want to do it electronically. Now, if you mail it, let's say that I do all my taxes and I print it out, I can mail it and you can save the $20, right? So you can spend between, you know, 40 or $60 around in total doing it yourself, right? Obviously, if you went ahead and you got a good return on your taxes, then that $60 would have canceled out whether you had someone else do it or whether you did it yourself, right? There's always going to be some kind of cost. Obviously, if you do it free, you're not going to get a lot of the intelligence that's in the software that will help you maximize your your return, right, by itemizing those deductions. Um, when you get a software like the TurboTax Deluxe in here, it's going to give you pre-programmed intelligence that will help you find what you need to be doing to get the most back. So when you launch this program, it's actually going to go online, and into it they keep up to date to all the tax laws and records. So it does this maybe, I don't know, every week, every month. I'll notice that when I launched this here, I bought this like maybe last week, it already updated a second time, right? So it downloaded whatever the latest tax laws are, and it might end up helping you, right? Now you may wonder, well, um, maybe I'm the kind of person that doesn't do my taxes, or I get paid under the table, right? I don't have a consistent job. Well, there's some benefits to doing taxes. Obviously, if you're paying into disability or you know unemployment or any of the benefits that we get uh, from when you're paid by an employer, and you do taxes, obviously you're going to get that benefit. But if you do everything under the table, that's going to be a different story, right? This will probably be a best case scenario for someone that has a good consistent job. Doesn't matter what the job is, right? But they pay taxes and they want to maybe get something back, right? They might have a family too, and you have more kids, and that will give you added benefits. But I'm not going to get into too much into those details. I'll go over mostly what I get out of this software typically. So after it's downloaded the updates, the first thing it's going to ask me is my personal information. Basically, are you single? Are you married? Where do you live? Social security number, etc., etc. Then it's going to ask me for my W-2. So that's basically a form that your employer will give you. Basically says, uh, from 2019 to 2020, this is the gross income that we paid to Mr. Uber. Let's make up a number. Let's say from 2019 to 2020, uh, Mr. Umer was paid 100K, right? Fictional number. And that's a gross. That's not after everything is taken out. Obviously, when Uncle Sam gets involved, Uncle Sam wants to get paid, right? So they might take like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40% of your pay, right? So your 100K in reality is probably 50K, right? But the point is, Uncle Sam took some of that money in taxes, maybe used it to benefit society. Maybe it took too much, and they're going to want to pay you back, right? Or maybe there's some added deductions they can give you so you can get money back. Uh, it's almost like saying, well, why didn't they just take less? And maybe I paid more, but that's, if you get more into it, that's not how taxes work. So after I put in my personal information, my W-2, um, it's basically going to want you to go through federal and state taxes. So in my case, state taxes would be California, federal would be obviously the U.S. government, right? Another name of the state taxes, they might call it the Franchise Tax Board in California. The federal taxes will be the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, right? If there's anything more certain, is death and taxes, right? So if you're going to be doing your taxes, try to do it right. I mean, no one's perfect. Software will help you get there more accurate, and obviously a tax professional can probably do that as well. So if I go to the federal taxes, that's where some of my personal information and my W-2 got transferred into. The meat and the potatoes of it really, though, is the deductions and the credits. So let's go over what it has in there. Obviously, there's logic in here that can walk you through each one. Basically, it's going to ask for this piece of paper, like did you pay registration? Um, did you uh, uh, did you pay taxes, like property taxes or uh, insurance payments on your loan, right, for your house? Did you pay rent? Uh, did you buy energy efficient equipment? Did you donate? Those are different things, right? So it can walk you through each one of those, and it can be a pretty long and exhausting process. You're probably going to want to make sure you have all your records, receipts, donations, anything that you did for that tax year, right? Obviously, I'm not going to include anything that I did previously to that because in 2019, I did the same process. Now, if I hit manually choose, then it's going to show you some of the different benefits or deductions you can look at, right? Obviously, we talked about mortgage. If you own a home, especially in California, uh, the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board, they're going to pretty much give you a good tax break. If you make a certain amount, but you're you own a property and you're paying taxes and insurance, you're going to get that benefit out of there. So that's one of the deductions you can itemize, along with property taxes. We also talked about home energy credits. Now that has to do with Energy Star type devices, right? You might have a washer, dryer, some refrigerator that basically saves energy, and um, you know, TurboTax can get that information and try to give you a benefit, right? You obviously have other items in here that might be pertinent to different states. May not apply to California, may apply to you. Maybe you pay child care, right, or alimony. That's going to be accounted for here. One of the other biggest things that you're probably going to look at is charitable donations, right? A lot of people might think, well, you're just trying to offset it, by putting things you donate or use. Well, those actually add up, right? When you're donating, for example, you give to the Salvation Army, right? Or maybe you give to the Veterans Association. A lot of those things can be itemized too, and they'll give you a higher return, right? We also talked about car registration fees, right? Or owning certain property or vehicles. One of the things I do um, for this area here is I put in what's called the VLF, uh, vehicle license fee, right? So every time you pay your registration, to the California DMV or any DMV, there's going to be called what's a VLF. And I'll put the link to the California DMV where basically they have a calculator. So let's say your registration, I'll make it up, was $150 for whatever truck you had, right? The VLF will calculate and say, well, you can deduct, $100 on your taxes there and account for that because you paid for it, right? So that's the item I would put here. Obviously, if you have more cars, the more the merrier, right? Stepping back, some of the donations usually I'll keep. For example, if I gave to the to the Salvation Army or wherever, I would have kept the receipt, right? And normally those businesses don't give you an exact amount, really. That's going to be on what you donated, right? So maybe I gave a box of clothes and the value of that was $200 or $300. You're going to take that value and you're going to put it in here. It's going to help you out. Obviously, going back here, let's see if okay, it's listed here. Education, very big one, right? A lot of us may be going to school even during this pandemic, right? So student loans, maybe you borrowed money, and here's an added benefit. If you borrowed money, right, you can actually put it in here because if you paid interest, it can help you with your deduction. So one of the popular loan processors there is Sallie Mae, right? Which is now, I believe, called Navient. And, before I paid off my loans, I would be getting these different interest statements here, right? 1098s, right? Just like the mortgage or rental type credits there, you can put that credit in here, right? Scrolling down, it looks like we have some other type of stuff here. If you're self-employed, sick leave, employer credits, self-employment. They have a new one here I haven't really seen, COVID-19 relief. Now you might think, well, the government gave me a stimulus. Now if you go and look at the IRS website and you're wondering, well, let's say I was given 600 stimulus, right? Make it up, right? Or I was given 1,200 stimulus. I was given a card or a payment or whatever. It's technically income, right? Do I need to put this on here as taxable income? Now, when you go on the IRS website, it says you don't have to do that, and the same would be true for the franchise tax board. So if you don't believe me, go ahead and Google that and look it up on the website. Last time I checked, they said they're not going to tax you on that. Now, if you got a return from a 2019 tax return, do you have to report that? And the answer is yes. You might get something called like a 1099-G. Basically, they want to, if you made some income from what was given back to you in taxes, right? Guess what? The government wants to tax you on that, right? It may seem like a bunch of BS, but that's how it's done, right? They'll do it each year. Scrolling down, you got medical. Obviously, if you were injured or hurt or you had to shell out, right? And thank God, hopefully I didn't have to go through any COVID or anything, but let's say you had some medical bills, some whatever insurance provider you have, or maybe you don't have any insurance and it came out of pocket, right? Fact of the matter is, if you kept receipts, you can itemize those deductions. It could be for medication, it could be for x-rays, it could be for co-pays, right? Those add up, right? And obviously there's going to be a certain amount that or a threshold that you have to meet, right? I don't know what it is for this year, right? But let's make up a number. Let's say you have to have at least 5,000 in medical bills. Well, that's going to give you an added benefit here. Now, does that mean go out and get hurt? No. Well, it won't matter for this year because this is for 2020, not for 2021. So no, don't go out and go hurt. But if you did get hurt or you were sick or whatever, and you had some medical bills, right? And if you have a kid, maybe you're claiming your kid, then you can put that in here as well. There's some other stuff here: foreign taxes, retirement investments, employment expenses, and other things like alimony, moving expenses. Even if you had paid someone like a tax preparer, right? Those are all things that you can deduct and credits you can add in there to maximize your return. So let's say, I'm going to make up some numbers. My income was 100K, and the government says, well, from that 100K, you owe $5,000 in taxes. After you do the deductions and credits, maybe it offset it, and now the your return is we're gonna not require you to pay the 5,000 because you had enough deductions in there, right? This, they call it standard deduction, right? Um, and credits that now we owe you 2,000. So that's what we call the return, right? So obviously it's very important to do your research, keep your receipts, keep everything that you have. Obviously there's a lot of things that are digital now. I don't get a W-2 in the mail anymore, right? I get it digitally from my employer. So you'll probably have that same benefit as well. Depending on what tax software, it may be able to automatically import it in there. Or maybe you've used TurboTax before. Guess what? It can import all those details that you typed from 2019 into 2020, right? So that's an added benefit of having our TurboTax or software like TurboTax is that these things are automated. And a lot of the decision making can be manual, but it's also automated, right? It's going to help you try to make the best decision so you can get the most return. They'll even sell you at the end, like we'll give you what's called audit protection, right? So basically, let's say you made some mistakes in here, right? Or not yourself, but the software made some mistakes, or maybe it's you and the software that made mistakes. Well, you're covered. You can get audit protection. So basically, what that will do is it will minimize what the IRS or the franchise tax board coming after you because you have some protection that the company is basically, as I say, is going to be liable for, right? Now, whatever you did in federal taxes, your W-2, it'll be the same with the state taxes. You might not have these same deductions, but obviously the state of California is going to give us some different benefits. I noticed that off your W-2, if you do own property or pay rent, that it'll be reflected here in the state taxes. So let's say we had that estimate of 100K. I owed 5,000 in taxes, but deductions brought it to 2K from the feds, and you might see something a lot lower. Or from what I noticed from last year, that tax laws changed. I actually saw something higher from the state tax, right, to offset the lower amount they were giving from the IRS. So it'd be interesting to see when I do my taxes, whether is it a traditional thing where I get the most return from the federal government and then half or 30% from the state, versus last year was actually flipped, right? So it'd be interesting to see that. When you get to the review tab, this is the part where the TurboTax software is going to do a lot of error correcting. And even, you're diligent, and I've found that there's certain things that are missing, right? If you're a tax preparer, you've done this by hand, which I've done by paper. There's a lot of mistakes that can be made, right? You didn't read a note, or you didn't do an instruction, or you didn't add or subtract correctly, right? The software is going to go in and do that for you. If you missed a line, like, are you a veteran? It's going to go back and actually check all of that. So after it checks it, it'll give you the option to file the taxes. Now, obviously, for this edition of the Deluxe, if I choose to file the electronically for the IRS, the federal government, it's free. I go ahead, I'll ask you, we done our check, you're good to go, electronic file, boom. Advantage of that, it's quicker than snail mail, obviously. When you do it electronically, I've seen it come, if you do it your taxes early in January, I've seen it come in within a week. Now, obviously, it's uh, nearing towards end of February, March, you might see it in 1 or 2 weeks, or even more time, because it's normally going to take longer because the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board have to process both electronic as well as the snail mail, right? Now, obviously, if I did snail mail, there's an option. I can print out my tax forms in here, your 1090s or 540s or whatever. You can print all that information and package it all up, send it certified by the U.S. Postal Service or whatever service you have, and you can maybe wait additional 1 or 2 weeks on top of what you would have gotten, right? And the same thing goes for the state as well. Now, for the state, if you're trying to save that $19.99 using this method, then you're probably going to want to mail that in, right? Maybe the state is not as much, or maybe you actually owe, right? And you don't care whether you get the return back because you're actually having to pay. So, but if you're getting a return back and you want to get it quicker, normally what I do, I just pay the 20, right? Because you made enough off of your return that it negates your $20 that you gave to them to electronically file it, right? So obviously, after you've done everything, um, one thing you might have to do is register with TurboTax. I usually skip that. But what's good is they can give you notifications in your email, and you also get some in your email from the federal government and from the state telling you your taxes have been processed, and we sent it to whatever bank account that you put in there. Obviously, if you mailed it, they mail you a check, right? And that takes time, right? And then you'll have to go to the bank, or you'll have to upload it using your phone, and that might take longer as well. Overall, I prefer doing everything electronic since this is a piece of software. Now, we went through personal info, federal taxes, state, review, and file. Um, pretty easy, right? Basically a 4 to 5 step process. So it doesn't get any easier than that. So if you liked what I had here, please like and subscribe. I'll leave more information in the descriptions. Please comment if you have any questions, or feel free to reach out to me. And that's all we have for this edition of how to maximize your return, right? So that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.